Today, we've got a really powerful story for you. It's about turning something that held you back your whole life into, well, a kind of superpower. It's a journey that's all about dyslexia, fighting with technology, and then, at 57 years old, building an AI app. Imagine being told your whole life, you were born with a wrench in your hand. And yeah, it was meant as a compliment. It meant he was brilliant with his hands. But what it really did was draw a line. On one side, he was a genius. On the other, well, words, books, reading, that was a totally different story. A constant, frustrating struggle. So let's get into that. So to really get this story, we have to go way back. Because before he could build anything with AI, he first had to deal with decades of a learning disorder he didn't even have a name for. And this contrast, it basically defined his entire childhood. Think about it. At just 8 years old, the kid could repair car engines, starters, water pumps, you name it. A total natural. But then you put him in a classroom, and it was like he was a different person. Reading was this huge, impossible mountain to climb. To even understand a book, he had to literally write down every single word. Can you imagine the effort? It was just overwhelming. And that struggle eventually led him to drop out of school in the 10th grade. It's crazy, but the answer, the reason why it was all so hard, didn't come for years, not until he was 33. He decided to go back to get his high school diploma, and it was a really observant teacher who noticed his learning patterns during tests and said, hey, maybe you should get evaluated. And finally, he had a name for it: dyslexia. So decades go by, and that fundamental challenge with the written word, it's still there. But then, something new comes along. A technology that promised something revolutionary, a new way to work with language, a tool that felt like it could finally level the playing field. His journey with AI really just kicked off in 2024. He was seeing all these videos about it online, for side hustles and stuff. And true to form, being a hands-on guy, he thought, okay, let's test this thing out. He needed a rental agreement for a property he owned, a perfect practical task. He typed in a simple request, and what he got back was just astounding. I mean, in his own words, he was just blown away. The document that came back looked so professional, so perfect, it was like an expert lawyer had drafted it. Now, for someone who had spent his entire life fighting with formal writing, man, this felt like actual magic. But, and this is a big but, there was a catch. While it looked perfect on the surface, he found out later it was missing all the crucial legal details, the parts that actually protect you. So he had this great-looking document that was completely useless. And that right there perfectly illustrates the huge problem he was about to face. Okay, so that first experience, it basically kicked off this period of just intense frustration. He could see how powerful the tool was. He knew the potential was there. But trying to get it to do what he actually needed it to do, man, it felt like a total battle. And he did exactly what you or I would do, right? He went online, searched for the best prompts, and found all these so-called expert tips. But instead of helping, they just made things way more confusing. The AI would go off on these weird tangents, completely ignore his instructions, and produce results that made absolutely no sense. This question just sums up that feeling perfectly, doesn't it? You give the AI a simple, clear instruction, it's a red apple, and it comes back with something completely different. It just feels random, chaotic, and, yeah, deeply frustrating. This is such a powerful way to put it. This wasn't a collaboration. It felt like a fight. And worse, it felt like a rigged fight, one where he was destined to lose, because the referee was on AI's side from the start. But then, after all of those hours of fighting and getting nowhere, came the moment of clarity. The solution wasn't more complexity. Nope. It was radical simplicity. After watching video after video on prompt engineering, it just clicked. He realized everyone was making this way too complicated. The AI isn't some computer waiting for a perfect line of code. It's more like a brand new employee, just asking simple questions to understand its job. He didn't need to write a complex paragraph. He just needed to answer its questions one by one. So through his own trial and error, testing different AIs against each other, he distilled this entire conversation down to 5 core elements. He called them the 5 keys, and they became his secret to getting clear, predictable results every single time. His method broke the whole thing down into 5 simple steps. First, he'd tell the AI its role. Was it a legal expert or a creative writer? Next, the specific task. Then he'd give it the necessary context. Fourth was the output format, an email, a table, a script. And finally, he'd give it a guiding rule to follow, like use a friendly tone. Simple, separate, and perfectly clear. Now, this personal breakthrough was just too important to keep to himself. He realized his unique way of thinking actually gave him an advantage here, and he felt like he had to turn this insight into a real tool for other people. And you know what the real breaking point was? The thing that pushed him from just being a user to a creator? He tried making his own videos to explain his method, and he found that even he struggled to explain prompt engineering clearly. He knew then that he didn't just need a method. He needed to build an app that laid it all out for you, making the whole process effortless. And get this, he decided to do this at age 57. I mean, think about that. After a lifetime of feeling held back by text and structured information, here he was stepping into the world of software development to solve that exact problem for everyone. This philosophy just brings everything full circle, right back to that kid with the wrench in his hand. Whether it's a stuck bolt on an engine or a bug in an app, for him, a challenge isn't a dead end. It's a sign that the solution is near. The harder the problem, the closer he knows he is to the answer. And this is his personal motto, the driving force behind everything. No is never a final answer. It's just a temporary obstacle, a puzzle waiting to be solved. It's that powerful mindset of persistence that has served him his entire life. So this incredible journey, from struggling with words to building a tool that commands them, it really leaves us with a question. His story shows that our greatest challenges can often hide our most unique insights. So, what challenge in your life is just a rock, waiting for you to turn it over?